So my computer crashed. Ableton has a very, very hard time duplicating snippets of audio that would fit into the narrowest section of the grid. So when I duplicated it, I think that might have been why it crashed. I'm not too sure. So I've been waiting for the past while for it to start working again, and what I did was to alleviate it was to save the file and consolidate the last audio that I created, the narrow snippets of audio to create this tone. So I consolidated it. I consolidated it into one file. Um, just in case you're wondering what's going on. So I have my kick and I have this tone now. So what I'm going to do with this tone is, firstly, I'm going to take the stereo width down to 0 using utility. So we get it in both speakers. Now that we actually have a tone, I want to manipulate the pitch of this to see, because it's obviously a high-pitched, annoying piece of shit, like, for now. But look at it, it just looks like ass. But anyway, we'll get it down. There we go. Now we have a tone. So I'm going to, for handiness sakes, I'm going to render that tone like that by consolidating Control J. It's much less annoying sounding. So what do we have here, you know, in terms of if you think about this audio track with a tone in it, you can see obviously that it sort of behaves like an oscillator, and because they have all sorts of different things within the effects of Ableton that mimic maybe parts of a synth, like so. For instance, this utility plugin can be our gain of this oscillator, and we can put auto filter in here to be our filter, and we can put amp here at the end, but I won't put amp in at the end. This will generate our envelope here, and if we want to create sort of attack and release from within the clip itself, we could use maybe volume automation. It's not the same thing, like, but it does what it does. So what I would like to do here is, this is where it can get a bit, you can be quite creative with it. You can, I'll turn the amp off. I'll show you what I'm going to do with the amp and the auto filter in a minute. But, well, actually, we'll need to use auto filter now to get some sounds out of here. So I like to use a notch filter. I often put LFO on it just to give it a tiny bit of movement. It's nice and stereo now. So we have that one tone, and we'll just treat that as the first oscillator, and we'll duplicate the track, and we can create a chordal melody now using this technique. We'll use Complex Pro for this. So I don't actually know which frequency that is, so I'll put tuner on it before it goes anywhere. It's quite a pure tone. So we're around F. If we want to make it, we're around F. So might pitch it up a little bit to get it to be a bit closer to F again. So we use the D tune. Probably about 14 cents too high. So yeah, dead on F. Okay, so I'll copy this down here. Control and drag copies things in Ableton, for those of you who don't know that. It makes things very easy. So we have our two waveforms. So
First thing we'll do is create a chord, obviously. And because this is going to be a pad, we're going to need to, it would be nice to have a lower frequency one, so we'll take this down to minus 12 as well. And obviously when you're making a pad, you generally, well, I myself would use a triangle wave with a bit of a long attack. So we'll have the second oscillator on the highest frequency one. We'll have them come in a little bit slower, so we'll show the fades here again and bring in the higher one later, and we'll keep the fundamental one steady but with a tiny bit of envelope. So here we go with that. So we have that. That's good. If we want to add a fourth chord, we'll try it, sure. I'll take it from here. It's often fun to use a minor, so I'll take it down 4. Cool. So I like that sound. It's got a nice enough attack on it. It's got a 90s vibe about it. So we'll group these together and we'll set up our pretend synth parameters or effects units. So get our wee auto filter in there. It's got a built-in LFO for if we need it. Resonator, again, cannot stress how useful it is. But we'll probably use a very, 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 very small amount of wet on that. But there's a drive within autofilter as well. It's very, very useful. The vocoder might come in handy for send. So we'll send this to that's group 6. So let's call this pad. I'll send this to vocoder and we'll just have it on a modulator so that we can have a little bit of extra noise. I'll turn it down a little bit. Oh no, utility is better for that. So we'll just play it back and see what kind of effects we need to put on it. Like instantly, you know it needs reverb. Always set it to high quality in Ableton because it can be very tinny. And the reason I find it's tinny is the controls are incredibly sensitive within this plugin. And a lot of people don't use the input processing section to maybe tone down the high frequencies or the diffusion, so be mindful of that. I often use a small sized room in this because I find it's the best sounding part of it. Right, we've noticed instantly because now we have more instrumentation in it. Maybe that kick doesn't sound very good. It might sound a little bit out of place. So I'm going to resample it with its processing currently on it so that I can manipulate everything at once. Ooh, sampling mode there. Okay. So I'm going to consolidate again. Overall, yeah, I quite like that tone. I'm going to add a little bit of vocoding to it using the noise. And I tune the harmonics with the formant, so now what would be useful here would be maybe
would be maybe some multi-band compression, maybe. We'll see. Um, so we know the fundamental is F, so try this. Next up, I would say, would be I'll try just some compression in general to see what we can do. Because multi-band dynamics is quite a plugin, it's quite good. But it'll be a fucking pain in the ass. Smash it, and I okay, cool. And there's another useful thing you can do once you have access to all oscillators. That's a low one. We can give it a bit of stereo width. Although unfortunately, the biggest problem I have with Ableton is the pan law. It's always caused me a lot of annoying issues in my life. Chorus is good as well for stereo. It's really, really, really nice when it just automatically sounds great on its own. Cool, and I might put more reverb on that. I'm a fucking fiend for the old reverb. Okay, and I kind of want to feed it this kick here. Oh fuck, what did I call the kick? I didn't call it anything to do. 12 audio, okay. There are problems with the kick, and I'm not gonna sit here and mix the thing. I just want to get a general track. It's got an annoying timbre within it that's kind of pissing me off, but I'm just gonna deal with it and get to the next bit, which is creating a snare. Okay, so. I think
discarding this, we can, yeah, okay. Okay, that wee bit of audio there, so it's got a wee tiny attack. I'll take it out. So we've got our first loop here. It's a nice tone. It's got what I like in a techno sound. It's got the drone. So and of course, I'm going to pitch it down. Maybe not that far, but hey, that. I'll consolidate it. Apparently, in the new Ableton, it just allows you to drag it to the end, and it'll just create the clip. Right, that's problematic. Not in the Huffington Post way either. Okay, so we'll take noise inner vocoder. There we go. Cool. Right, that's a good basis, but I want to compress it a little bit before it goes in there. Take a bit of, maybe. Okay. Okay. See, that's got a bit more chunk to it now. Now it gets interesting because when you start ripping it to shreds with the saturator in its wave shaper mode, you can get interpolation, and the interpolation is where the snare will lie once it's resampled. It almost looks like a snare wire in the wave shaper anyway. So that sounds kind of like a clap. So we'll take from this some upper harmonic content and some lower stuff, so that we can combine them together to make a bigger thing. That's some waveform. So that's the first thing I would use. Maybe treat that as a clap or something. Now to play this while we are manipulating the initial sound. Maybe take that off resampling and route it from the actual thing itself. And loop. Okay. Okay. I'll try a bit of redux on this just to see. fuck me. Okay, fuck that key. Drives me crazy. So I think that might have been excessive anyway. Let's just listen to it again. Okay, I'll just take that for now and pitch it down probably. Makes sense to me. A bit louder than that. Remember, when you're doing these sort of manipulations, and like even if they're clipping or fucked up, they might still sound. They might still be fine in context, because what you're trying to do is create horrible shit and then derive good things from it. Like, our good friend Corpus again. No. Marimba might be more useful. I often just go through all the different materials. Right, that sounds a little bit. It's got a bit more of a. It's got a bit more of an actual drum sound now. Let's see. So we'll group these two now. They seem to complement each other okay. Now, so I find the kick could use a little bit of an accompaniment in the top end. So I'll use a wee tiny bit of this audio that we created the snare from, and just see where. Yeah, that sounds all right.
We take the fades in and pitch it up a bit. Let's see if it complements the kick now, which is where. Sounds okay, yeah. Copy it. 4 4 4 4. Right. And got kind of a nice vibe there. So obviously the next step would be to create a hi-hat, and the easiest fucking way to do that is by resampling the snare. So we'll take the snare. Oh, maybe turn off the reverb because that can be annoying when you're trying to design a sound from another sound. So let's go. Okay, so you can tell somewhere in the middle of the decay there's a wee I'll just Control E. Don't want any of the characteristics. Cool, so you can hear the sort of bad quality pitching. And then you put a vocoder on it. Woohoo! Okay, overdrive. Cool. Something to make it more metallic, like a flange. Let's get it in the right frequency range here. And make sure it doesn't move too far. That's sounding kind of good there. Erosion is the other thing I would do to create. Right, you want it to be subtle, but obviously there, you know. So, I think resonator is another good one you can use to help design the sound. you only want it to be very subtle as fuck. So when you resample it, garnering a lot of tracks here, but it's okay because we're only using Ableton's built-in stuff. Right. Cool. Let's fire these over here somewhere to the left. Pan those motherfuckers. Get our 16th notes going. And okay. This way we can manually control the attack, delay, decay, and release and shit by just having raw audio and use our face. Okay. Cool. And I think this is correct. Still not ready yet, I wouldn't say. Bit of that verb. Get that verb. Okay, so now we have sort of a good bed. So what I would like to do now is, obviously it needs bass, so that can be a pain in the ass, but we'll do it. Come on, give me one bar. Cool. Right, so I'll duplicate this here just so we can have a wee listen. What am I talking about? Oh yeah, so what I wanted to do is 4 bars actually. For second part, I should by right consolidate all of these parts and then re-sample it into one audio file, but just in case I want to change the tonality, I'm just going to knock everything down to here so that we have a nice buzz. So let's see. Saturation's good on pads. It's a bit harsh. Okay, so obviously the bass drum would be the easiest thing from which to make a bass, as they're tonally similar. Well, actually, no, I'll make a bass from the hi-hats instead. So are these rendered? Okay. Actually, we'll just take one of these like this. So corpus, obviously. Corpus is actually, I'll use resonator this time because bit too high. F1 maybe. Might be a bit too obvious. Okay, corpus. It's nice. I really like that sound. It's a bit too chorusy. Right, okay, so saturate the motherfucker. Okay, so I can hear it in my head. It's like don't. Fucking. So 1 and 16. It's not right either. And then down to. So yeah, okay. Oh yeah, you gotta resample it to make it work. I forgot about that. So I'll just take it in. The tonalities are different between them, so maybe they could be layered together. The tonalities, the timbre. What am I fucking talking about? Okay. So. And utility. Cool. And what?
tend to do is just pan them. Now, to make a sub to go under this shit, I think you can turn anything into anything, so I'll just use the hi-hat again, you know. Where's the fucking corpus now? Actually, I think Resonator creates a more, well, it's like a F1. Where are you? So we want it to be mono and obviously quite loud. We'll throw a corpus on it again as well and pick something very... Okay. Right, perfect. So we'll use our audio again now to taste resampling. Right, so that's nice and drawn out, and I'll just copy this to where it needs to be. Okay. Okay. And just fuck that out. Like the attack's a little bit weird looking, so could sidechain it to the bass that's up there. Sidechain it to a gate is what I'd do in that situation. I can't be hold at the moment though, so I'll just I'll do that later. So cool. Look, you can make effects and stuff resampling the noise. So if you want to create a white noise for it, just fire it into the vocoder. For now, I'm not going to go through it. I just wanted to show you how it could be done. This has gone on long enough. But yeah, that's just all the different things you can do using Ableton's built-in effects. And hope you enjoyed it. Like and subscribe, blah, blah, blah. Much love.